In Sheep's Clothing, Understanding and Dealing with Manipulative People by Dr. George K. Simon is a powerful deep dive into the subtle, covert tactics of manipulators, those who use underhanded strategies to control, deceive, and dominate others without appearing openly aggressive. The book exposes how these individuals operate in everyday life and how they can leave their victims feeling confused, powerless, and emotionally drained. Dr. Simon, a clinical psychologist, shifts the focus from traditional ideas of aggression and instead introduces the concept of covert aggression, a form of manipulation that is strategic, subtle, and deeply harmful. The core idea of the book is that manipulative people don't act out of impulse or lack of self-control. On the contrary, they are often highly calculated, using tactics that are difficult to confront because they don't resemble typical hostile behavior. These individuals know exactly what they're doing, and they often mask their aggression under the appearance of charm, innocence, or victimhood. The book argues that traditional psychological approaches often fail to identify these behaviors because they're designed to understand people with inner conflict, not those who deliberately manipulate without remorse. Simon explains that manipulators are often mistaken for people who are insecure or struggling internally, but in reality, many of them are fully aware of their tactics and goals. They use guilt-tripping, gaslighting, feigned innocence, selective forgetting, and veiled threats to control others without ever appearing openly malicious. These behaviors are especially effective because they cause the victim to question themselves and feel responsible for the problem. The book introduces the idea of aggressive personalities who disguise their motives in relationships, workplaces, or family systems. Unlike overt bullies, covert aggressors don't raise their voices or throw tantrums, they work quietly to undermine, confuse, and dominate. Simon emphasizes that recognizing the difference between passive behavior and covert aggression is key to understanding these individuals. One of the most valuable contributions of the book is its list of manipulation tactics. Simon outlines common methods used by covert aggressors, such as shaming, diversion, minimization, and playing the victim. He dissects how these tactics work psychologically and why they're so effective. By identifying these tools, readers can begin to see through the smoke screen that manipulators create and understand the psychological mechanics behind their strategies. Simon also offers a detailed profile of the manipulator's mindset. He explains that these individuals often lack empathy and do not play by the same moral rules as others. They are goal-oriented and will do whatever it takes to win, especially if it gives them power or control. Unlike people with a healthy conscience who experience guilt or regret, manipulators often see kindness or emotional vulnerability as weaknesses to exploit. The book emphasizes that many victims of covert manipulation are caring, conscientious people who are taught to avoid conflict and always assume the best in others. Manipulators take advantage of these traits. Simon urges readers to reconsider some of the beliefs they may have internalized, such as, everyone deserves the benefit of the doubt, or, you should never judge people harshly. These well-meaning principles can be dangerous when dealing with someone who deliberately twists them for their own benefit. Simon argues that standing up to manipulators doesn't require being rude or aggressive, it requires being firm, clear, and emotionally strong. He offers strategies to help readers assert themselves without falling into the traps that manipulators set. One key technique is learning to recognize manipulation as it's happening and calling it out calmly, without getting drawn into the manipulator's emotional games. He also stresses the importance of setting boundaries and refusing to justify or over-explain your actions. Manipulators often rely on the other person becoming flustered or defensive, which gives them the upper hand. By keeping responses simple and grounded in self-respect, victims can reclaim control and stop the cycle of manipulation. Throughout the book, Simon uses examples from therapy and real-life situations to illustrate how these dynamics play out. Whether in romantic relationships, parent-child interactions, or corporate environments, the manipulator's goal is usually the same: to dominate without being seen as the aggressor. His examples make it clear how easily even intelligent, strong-willed people can fall into the manipulator's trap, especially when they don't recognize the tactics being used. Simon also takes aim at traditional therapeutic models that try to explore the inner pain or trauma of manipulators. He argues that this approach often leads to excusing or enabling harmful behavior. Instead, he advocates for a confrontational but respectful stance that holds manipulators accountable for their actions, rather than trying to fix or understand them in terms of past wounds. The book does not suggest that all manipulation is done by sociopaths or people with extreme personality disorders. Rather, it shows that manipulation exists on a spectrum, and many seemingly normal, well-adjusted people engage in covert-aggressive behavior to get their way. Simon's goal is not to pathologize everyone, but to help readers recognize when someone's behavior consistently violates emotional or psychological boundaries. Healing from manipulation, according to Simon, involves rebuilding confidence and clarity. Victims often feel confused or emotionally fogged after prolonged exposure to covert-aggressive behavior. Part of the recovery process includes unlearning toxic patterns, learning to trust one's perceptions again, and practicing assertiveness in everyday interactions. Simon's tone is both clinical and compassionate. He doesn't shame victims for being manipulated, instead, he empowers them to protect themselves with knowledge and emotional discipline. The book's message is not just about defense, it's about personal growth and developing stronger, healthier relationships through awareness and boundaries. By the end of In Sheep's Clothing, readers are equipped with a clearer understanding of what covert manipulation looks like and how to stop enabling it. The book reframes the concept of emotional aggression and offers a roadmap for protecting oneself without becoming hardened or cynical. Simon's insights are direct and invaluable, especially in a world where not all harmful people are loud, angry, or obvious about their intentions.